Welcome to The Truth in This Art. I am your host, Rob Lee. And today I have another installment of my series of The Truth in This Art Beyond. And we're in Austin. We're focusing in Austin. This is remote right now as we record. Today I have the privilege of chatting with a storyteller who tells story through visual art, film, video, music, fashion, and events. He believes in the power of art and the importance of the artist as a community catalyst for social and cultural change, economic development, healing, planning, and collective conversation. It's a great guest. Welcome, Chaka, to the podcast.
What's good? What's going on, man? It's an honor to be here.
It's an honor to have you on, man.
Absolutely, man.
Like a legend. Your name is in these streets, so it was just like, oh, where is it, Chaka? It was just that in the background. So I gave literally that copy and paste, and I noticed your facial expression as I was saying. It's like, yeah, get those words right, bro.
Nah, I mean, I was just smiling because that's it. You know, I wrote that bio or whatever myself, and that's 100% real. You know, it's 100% what I do. It's long, but like it captures it better than anything else. So
that's a very fair and accurate assessment of what your background is. So for those who are undipped, share like who you are or what have you, like broaden it out, because I'm sure it can be longer, right? And express what you're currently working on.
Man, I mean, that's a lot in itself, but I am Chaka, and Chaka is here to bring people together and to be creative about our liberation and our ultimate this ultimate new world that we need to create for, I just had a son. He's 5 months old.
Congrats.
These paradigms and everything, all the ways that, we have lived and were taught as the reality. Most of that is based in insanity, and we want to be human, and we want to live in a way that celebrates our humanity. And so, whether it's, painting, creating clothes, making music with my wife. I have a group called Riders Against the Storm. We moved here 12 years ago. I've been married with my wife 15 years. We've been together 18 years. Our son was born on our 15-year wedding anniversary, February 10th. We move with intention. We move with spirit. We don't move according to markets or this or that. We move according to just what drives us. Money doesn't drive us, but we've been blessed to have what we do and what we love become our way of sustaining ourselves and employing ourselves and making other people allowing other people to find their passion and their drive too. So, I have a clothing line. It's called Net for Fresher. You can find that at FreshToLife.com. You can find our music, Riders Against the Storm, or you can find Dawa, which is something I started in 2019 at dawaheals.org. And I started Dawa because, living in the city or most cities, being someone that is following your passion as an artist, music is here for our collective healing, regardless of whether it's hardcore or a symphony. If it's some hardcore rap or it's a symphony, like we need music to help us figure out our lives, to help us make sense of the world that we're in. And different genres have different modalities, different frequencies that allow us to find peace or find community or find connection. And so, that's an important role, and it's not taken seriously in our society. It's actually undervalued. Mm-hmm. I don't think there's anyone that's listening to this podcast that can say that their life wasn't affected by a song or a movie or even a painting or an artist. There's very few people that can say that, but most of these artists, before they became someone that was known and had notoriety, they were struggling, because their work is not valued until it reaches some type of market and it can be sold and valued in that way. And that's when, people start to applaud you or whatever. But we believe that, these roles are important and they should be supported. Mm-hmm. So Dawa started in 2019. I threw a party on my birthday and I raised $3,000. And my plan was just keep throwing parties and like raise money and give it away. But the success of the first party and just the energy around it, I got some friends that were part of different nonprofits and part of other groups like social development groups and things like that were just like, you should really turn this into something. So
Yeah.
Dawa in Swahili, it means medicine. And the acronym for Dawa was diversity, awareness, and wellness in action. So I started it because, again, the musicians are undervalued, the social workers are undervalued, the teachers are undervalued. What would our society be without these roles?
Mm-hmm.
Where would we be without teachers? Where would we be without people that are looking out for our mental health? Where would we be without nurses? Where would we be without people in the service industry bringing us our food and making sure that, you know, what we get at our table is good and there for us. These roles are like seriously undervalued across the board. So these are the roles that I played throughout my life. You know, I was a community organizer. I ran when I lived in Providence, I was a community organizer. I was a high school teacher. I was obviously a musician, an artist. I was successful. The students that I work with, they learned how to read. They learned how to, you know, explore their world through reading. They learned how to be creative and bring that into the classroom. You know, I ran an after school nonprofit called True School Studios. We took kids that were getting, you know, arrested for, you know, being creative and putting their art on walls. And we started to teach them how to screen print and do commission work. And back in the day with the tall tees, like do airbrush and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. But that didn't mean like my bank account was showing how successful I was at those things.
Right.
So those things usually don't add up if you choose that path. But if that's your path, you know, and some of us, that's what we're born to do. Mm-hmm. You know, we can go and try to get a tech job or whatever and be unhealthy and miserable. Or, you know, we can like follow our passion. But, you know, sometimes that passion can lead to us feeling miserable because the money that we get for doing these things that we're passionate about doesn't add up. So anyway, I started Dawa for that community itself, and we've raised over $200,000. We've given away $153,000 over the last 2.5 years through $200 Visa gift cards to that very community. 71% of that group has been African American. 30% of them were musicians, and then it goes from there. But we've raised the money all through events, partnerships with local businesses, some larger donors, but mainly like people giving at the $10, $20, $25, $50 range has allowed us to do all these things. So I couldn't do that. I couldn't create something like Dawa if my community hadn't allowed me to become what I am. So, you know, there were times where, you know, my wife and I, you know, couldn't, you know, we had to leave our apartment. Well, it was our house that we were living in. We had to leave the house that we were in 30 days. Our car was totaled. We couldn't afford first and last month's rent anywhere. Yeah. And we were basically homeless. But people took us in. People let us stay in the extra bedroom. People, you know, filled our refrigerator with groceries. There was always somebody there helping us because they believed in what we were doing. They're saying, no, like you guys offer something that we can't get anywhere else. And we see you, we witness you, and we're going to do what we can. Now, this wasn't spoken. This was just through action. That's why it's diversity, awareness, and wellness in action. Because when you witness and you see that, it's your responsibility to do what you can to make sure that person can thrive in what they're doing. So our community allowed us to reach the point where now we have a career in music. Yeah, you know, and we managed to set ourselves up in a sense where I can now sit and do podcast interviews without worrying about what's going to happen next month. I can go and have meetings with businesses and companies and talk to them about Dawa and not talk to them about trying to do something for our music career or things like that. I'm in a privileged position now because of how we've established ourselves to be able to give abundantly to other people. So, you know, that's what's going on around here.
It's good to hear. Thank you for breaking that down for us. So it's a few things that are in there that, you know, I see, and I see that connection, like where, you know, the community being there to support, you know, folks within the community. You know, that is a thing I think that's really important. And I think it's naturally there where, you know, the spot that I'm in, you know, I'm in this spot where I have a salary. I'm all right. I'm privileged in that way. So anything that comes in that's extra, that's gravy outside of like operation costs That's gravy. So I can, send some money here to a photographer who may not be able to afford film right now because everything has gone up, inflation, and fill in some of those gaps where, some of the people entrusted with those duties from a fiduciary standpoint might not be necessarily hitting that, or questioning what actually is art. And that's the thing that's interesting, because I'm in this spot where I noticed one of the first things within your bio is storyteller, and that's a lane that I'm in. I think I'm more of a facilitator in it and curating these things. But you have a conversation, and I think we were talking about it before we got on mic, where somebody who's not in the know, they don't know what to call that. Oh, you just do a podcast. You just get on the microphone. You just talk. It's like, it's much more than that. It's intellectually curious conversations. It's something that's trying to drive a point home and help someone share a story. I could just ask you the rudimentary questions. So tell me about your work. Wow, that's interesting. That's not really getting anything out of it, but trying to drive a point home to basically be a point guard. Let me assist you and get this out there.
Hey, yeah.
So in this way, and I think you've touched on it, and I think I'm kind of pointing at it. What is the artist, generally speaking, what's their responsibility?
The artist role is to help us like reflect on ourselves, to reflect on the time, and to consider alternatives. Now, not every artist does all of those things, but regardless, a lot of people get upset. Well, they're making this music, they're talking about this or that. It's like they're just reflecting what the times are. Mm-hmm. If there's drugs and guns in the community, people are gonna talk about drugs and guns. The artist's role is to just reflect the times and hopefully, make us think about a different path to open up new realities. That's what I feel like the artist's role is. And then like there's a deeper role where healing can occur. Mm-hmm. And that's where I feel like, we started a party here called Body Rock. And, we called it All Souls Church from the beginning, because it was really about connecting people of all ages, all backgrounds through music. But we throw intention into it and prayer into it and deep meditation into it so that, at one Body Rock, I'm gonna be giving probably 100, 150 hugs. We have, 500 to 800 people come out to these parties. And, you have people in their 80s that come out. You have people in their early 20s that come out. It's really Austin's most diverse party. But what happens is, through the coming together and the energy of just everybody lifting and elevating and shouting and screaming together and hugging, like healing occurs, where people can break free of that autopilot default setting that most of us are on all the time. Mm-hmm. But you have to have a facilitator. You have to have someone facilitate you into that space. And then you may not even realize that things are shifting. And then when they start to shift, we've had people, come up after the party's over and like, you guys don't understand, like you said this on the mic, or this song came and like, I haven't been able to grieve my grandmother's death for the last 10 years. I had a breakthrough. People that have, felt their children's first kick in their belly. People that, we just did a show recently, and I was talking to the crowd because it's like church. We'll stop the music and just talk or whatever. Sometimes we just ask people to clap their hands. We might start humming, whatever. Yeah. And one of the people was like, because I said something, I don't remember, because when I'm in my zone, it's just coming out, it's flowing. She's like, you said something about your ancestors, our ancestors, or whatever. And she was like, I'm wearing my grandmother's boots. These are her dancing boots. I haven't worn them in so long. And she had this opportunity to like reflect in that moment and just feel something that, again, is a part of what we want to bring into the space, because the party has become void. It's empty. Mm-hmm. It's just an opportunity for people to, there's things that happen there, but it's really just about drinking, getting messed up, and you're having a certain level of entertainment. But like, what was the party like when we first started having parties? It was to celebrate a birth. Celebrate the crops coming in, celebrate the spring, the summer, these things. There was a deep intention behind us coming together and singing and clapping and doing these things.
It's community focused. Yeah.
Yeah. And now it's just about, just to hang. And that's fine. Like we need to hang. We need to get out of our thing. But I think when you take it to a deeper level, there's so much more potential. There's so much more opportunity for new realizations and just new energy to be born and to be found.
Absolutely. 100%.
So as an artist, like I believe in that. And like I there's no separation between, healing and what I create. It's I'm a scientist, I'm an artist, and I'm a medicine man.
Yeah.
It's like all these things. Like there's no difference between them. Like when I create, that's all there. There's always medicine. There's always technology involved. Mm-hmm. We consider ourselves to community to be the greatest technology that we have.
Yeah. It's and I think you have to be in a spot where you're recognizing all the different things that your work touches, what you do touches. And I find that going back to the thing I was saying earlier, we have these folks that will tell you, oh, you just do this, don't put just in front of anything that I do, and it's not a matter of like reading your own press clippings, your own reviews, because who wants to do that? You just know what you do. And then other people, they're the ones that's telling you maybe what it may mean to them. It may not mean the same thing to somebody else. And I think when you're describing some of the work and what you have in terms of intention, that's where we're at. And that's what really makes sense. And
yeah, man. Sometimes people come up to me and they're like, well, that was a great party. And sometimes in the back of my mind, I was like, is that what this wasn't what I mean? This is this, but it's like, that's how they received it. Not everyone gets into some of the frequencies, some of the things that we're bringing. Mm-hmm. And some people come specifically for that medicine. They know like, whenever this party happens, I'm going to be able to release, I'm going to be able to get free and find, something deeper. And then, there are other people that are like, oh, that's a great party. Like we're entertainers to them to an extent. And it's a spectrum. But, I'm not an entertainer, that's for sure. Like, I'm a facilitator, I'm an artist, but I like entertainment, like part of entertaining is distracting. And I want us to like go in.
Yeah. I've been really on this Austin Kleon thing about stealing, stealing like an artist or what have you. And it was this quote that I took down that it made a lot of sense to me. I read the Ai Weiwei quote, life is art, art is life, life is art. I never separate them. What are your thoughts on that quote? And have you had any experience where art has taught you some life lessons?
Every experience, man. I'm gonna throw one at you that's gonna trip you out. So me and my wife, my wife actually started the comedy group, but I came in shortly after she started it. It was an all Black sketch comedy group. It was New England's only all Black sketch comedy group, and we did shows at colleges, we did shows at rec centers everywhere. It was a traveling group. And I had this character that I created. His name was Sergeant Snuggles. And I created Sergeant Snuggles because I was a teacher and I worked at a high school. And in that high school, there was a military recruiter in there almost every day. And they gave him access to the lunchroom, the hallways. Like he's walking down the hallways, people give him high fives, that type of thing. But they only had one college fair, a year. And, I'm just like, you give this guy access to all these, lower income, Black and brown students, and that's highly influential. Basically, you're basically just saying that this is one of the main routes for you to take. And we all know that wars, are about money and not not all of us know that, but we know these wars are not fought for the ideals. They're fought over territory and money and resources. And so, these young people end up going to fight for these very wealthy people, end up losing their lives or come back with PTSD. Mm-hmm. And that's the dark side of it. But like they're highly encouraged to like take that route. So anyway, I was just, it bothered me. Like when I saw him, I mean, I was always cool to him. He's another human or whatever. But like it would just make me mad because there was only one college fair. I mean, they should at least have, once a month have a college person come in and get high fives walking down the hall, you know what I mean? Or whatever, or anything else besides just that daily influence. Yeah. So I created Sergeant Snuggles basically to clown the military industrial complex because I felt like, we needed to like tear it down publicly. So the character had this snaggle teeth, and he had these like bottle coat glasses, and he had one arm. The backstory is that he was in Desert Storm, he lost his arm, but like each of the sketches that we did, like he would always run into these kids in the community. It was like a repeating thing, and he would like try to recruit them into the army. But what they would do is they would just tear him down every time and just like crack jokes on him until like he basically had his head hanging. But at the end, they would do this dance battle. And it was different versions of that. Like it was like the same thing, just different jokes and different. And so over time, he became a hero. Like when he came out, he was one of the most beloved characters that we had. We had all types of different characters. We had the characters named Willis and Tamika. We had the frugal pimps. They pimped on a budget. They pimped the system. We had these old granddaddy characters. We had multiple characters that would just repeat and be in every show. And so he became a crowd favorite. Like he would come out, people were like, Snuggle, they'd be cheering for him. Anyway, long story short, he ended up running for president in 2008. We did a whole website. He went to community events. He would speak at community events, and it was like a whole thing. And so it got to the point where people outside of the in-house freestyle community didn't know if he was real or not. So we go on to this public affairs community access show, and it's for people of color and like politics and stuff like that. And the guy Jim Vincent, he knew that this was not a real person, but he had him on because Snuggles was talking about real things. Like he had like a real platform that was like community based. And we were just using him like to get these kind of more alternative thoughts out into the community. So anyway, he's about to go on and get interviewed. And this guy, he steps out from behind the camera, it's community access. So it's all community folks in there in front of behind the camera. And he pulls up the pant leg, his right pant leg, and he's got a prosthetic leg. And he says to Snuggles, I feel you, brother, because Snuggles, he was so skinny, like he could tuck his arm behind his back and it looked like he didn't have an arm. So this dude like literally like thought that Snuggles was a real person. And the community also as well, like when he went out, they didn't know that he was a character. So life and art, right? We created this individual as kind of a part of our art process and a part of our, wanting to bring up certain things, but he became real. He became real to people. And what that taught us is about these politicians. And we wrote all of his speeches. We created the platform. We did photo shoots and all that stuff and did community events and all that. We created him. And the politicians that we see are the same. They are created. They are created. They don't believe what they're saying. They don't even a lot of times even know what they're saying. They're getting handed cue cards. They're getting handed speeches. And there's companies and other under agendas behind them. And so like life and art, man, it's like right there, like they were one. And we had that experience. That's like one of the best examples of that. But that's constantly around us because we don't separate them.
Yeah. The way you described that towards the end with the cue cards, it reminded me of what is it? The Ron Burgundy movie or what have you, when they kind of changed out like the cue cards and he said like "F you San Diego,"
right,
instead of "Good night San Diego." He's like, "Oh, right. I read that." He didn't even realize it, and it is one of those things where I have this belief if we're talking, let's say, I like to put things in very simple terms because I find like, that's kind of what my role is. And I always try to find comedy in something that might be rough, but I like to kind of get down to the root of things. And I think generally speaking, people just want to win. They will sell out whatever their thing is. And kind of what you were touching on, like you'll have somebody out there saying, I believe in this. My record dictates this. Well, your record shows that you've been all over the board of who's paying. So when we get into that and you see it when you start paying attention, and it's just like, the reminder is, and I think a lot of the work, and maybe I'm wrong, but I think a lot of the work that you've been involved in is in this vein of no one's saving us. We got to save ourselves. And here's how we're going to do it. And I think that that's important. I think that distinction is key to us being able to pull ourselves out of these bad situations and be able to do it on our own. And I'll leave you with this before I move to this next question. And I'm sure you have a take on it. But the initial run, I was doing these interviews in Texas, and this comes a week after like Juneteenth, right? And I remember the branding, the CNN branding. I was like, Juneteenth has its own flag. It's red, white, and blue. And, I was like, well, why is all the branding like kind of these Pan-African colors? I was like, did they rebrand Freedom? I was like, did they take our thing and make it commercial and turn it into a concert? All right, cool. I get it.
Yeah, they sure did.
And,
I mean,
I'm crazy for calling
we
it out,
gotta
though.
respect that. We gotta respect that because it's capitalism. That's what happens.
Yeah.
They're gonna turn everything into a gift shop, into a souvenir, thing.
It's like this joke that Patrice O'Neill had years ago, and he was talking about when sneakers went up in price. He was like, "Yeah, I remember when Air Force Ones were like $35, and then it hit you, and it's like it's 80. You're like, oh no, and it's like, all right, it's 70 now. Whew, at least it's not 80. And it's kind of a version of that when we see them come out with ice cream, Vaseline. You know, it's going to be some sales next year for cars. Something goofy.
Yeah. It's July 4th. It's everything. That's how they do everything. They don't know anything else. So we can't expect. It's now a national holiday. Of course, they're going to jump on board. You're going to see Juneteenth, everything.
And it's not anything that's really sustainable. Like if you come in there, you're a black person. I think it's a comedian that had a bit. He's like, oh yeah, you get 3/5 off. I was like, wow, that's great. I think it was Andrew Schultz, and it's kind of one of those things of we talk about, and it's funny where I'm going with this, but we talk about like reparations and things of that nature because that's what people felt was going to come, and they say, oh well, we're getting Juneteenth, and I was like, no, because they need to determine who's black, and they need to write it down on paper, and they won't do that. They had to acknowledge certain things. They won't do that unless it means they're going to win something. And they're not going to win anything getting black people like kind of set, kind of some degree of being more equitable. That's not going to happen.
Yeah, no, this is capitalism, and slavery is embedded in war, is embedded, genocide is embedded in this whole thing. So they're not going to give up anything at all. So it's really on us to realize that and wake up to that. People. It's like it's just cycles. We keep seeing the same thing.
We're trading hostages.
We just have to realize that it's on us. To wake up from the lies and the dreams that they've sold us.
So, I have this question. I think this is the first time. Yeah, we'll pause it.
My dog was getting ready to make a fuss if I didn't let him out.
No, you good. You good. I'll edit and post. It's all good. So I'm going to go back into this next question. So this is a question. I think this is one of the first times I've actually asked this question. And like I said, when I came down here, your name is in the streets. So tell me about like life, as an artist, as a creative, as a community leader, all of the different hats that you're wearing, and you're wearing a hat currently. Tell me about all of the different hats you're wearing while being either how is it different being obscure versus being known? Like you're doing this work behind the scenes and nobody really knows who you are, but they're like, okay, you're doing it. I see that guy all the time. And now once they know who you are, and it's like, I can go to Chaka for that, or I can reach out. So tell me how that is for you.
I mean, I think it's just it's a part of the process. And like, I just feel like you mentioned someone earlier, we were talking before the show, like there's certain people that choose to ignore certain things or choose to see what you're doing and try to copy it or, and a lot of that happens. But the thing is that, I believe in the 4 agreements, and one of them is be impeccable with your word. One of them is always do your best. One of them is don't make assumptions. And that 4th one is don't take anything personally. Yeah. So, I think those things drive me, like regardless of if people are saying they love me or whether they're saying they hate me or how they're responding to me, those are the 4 things that I focus on. And that's where like the blessings come from, because I'm always just giving thanks. I'm always grateful for whatever is happening, even when it's hard. And sometimes, I do get caught up in, oh, this didn't happen and that. But most of the time, I'm just really happy and really grateful to be able to make a living doing things that I really am truly passionate about. And so everything, comes out of that. And I think the obscurity is just based on like, people not knowing you. As they start to find out about you, you come out of that. But from obscurity to like notoriety, I'm the same person. Like I don't talk to you any different than I talk to a politician or this person or that person. So that could close the door for me or could open the door for me. Yeah. I really don't care, to be honest, because I truly believe that whatever's for me is for me. And like nobody can stop that. They can choose to ignore it. And there are plenty of people in this city, trust me, that choose to kind of ignore, act like I'm not here at all. And that's not just white people, that's Black people, whatever, because people get intimidated when they feel like they can't control you, or when they feel like they somehow can't dictate what you say or do. So that intimidates people a lot. And so, I know that's a part of being authentic.
Yeah.
There's a downside to it when you just authentically yourself, that, you can intimidate a lot of people. And there are a lot of quote unquote leaders that get intimidated by how I, present or things that I say or things that I do. And that's just part of it. But regardless, we've always been able to move forward, whether it be incrementally, really small things that we could celebrate. Like I remember the first time we realized that the party I was telling you, Body Rock, when we realized that there's 300-400 people coming out every month, like that was like a check.
Yeah.
We celebrated that because we didn't have to do these other things during the month that was keeping us away from our creativity and things that we wanted to do. Right. So once we knew we had that, it's the little things. It's just, and it's knowing that you started on a second Wednesday of the month with no cover, and you were getting 20% of the bar. And now you're getting 400 people out every month, and they're paying $5 to $10. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Celebrate all of that. And now, each milestone you celebrate it. You enjoy it, no matter who's obscuring you or whatever.
Yeah.
Celebrate the people that are giving to you, people that are filling your well, filling your cup. You know what I mean? And that's where, things start to multiply and everything like that. So I really, obscurity or notoriety, man, it's just all about staying consistent and being focused.
Thank you for sharing that. That's big. It's important. So I got one last real question, and then I got a bunch of rapid fire questions because I got things to ask you. So, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention this one. Could you tell me about your first memory in Austin? What was that? How was it? Tell me about that. Like, when you think of Austin, it's like first memory. What is it for you?
Man, my first memory is actually us. We were driving. I think we might have had some stuff we were kind of unpacking still, but we had like this it was a 97 Subaru Legacy station wagon, like one of this cranberry, but it was like, it's like the paint was just like different colors, and our AC really wasn't working, didn't work. And it was what we had, right? But we pull up next to this woman, and she's looking at us. You can't see me, but she's like making that sign, like, roll your window down, roll your window down. And we still coming from the north. So it's like, we still had that kind of like, you know what I mean? Yeah. Like, what you looking at type of energy, you know what I mean? Like, who are you, So anyway, we ended up, I don't know, it was like we both looked at each other, kind of looked back and forth, like, what does she want? Like, we rolled the window down, and she was like, I saw your plate. They said Rhode Island. I just want to say, welcome to Austin. You know what I mean? And it was at this intersection, and I was like, it was just like, that's the first really real memory that I have that's like really pops out when anyone says that. But it's funny, at that very same intersection, or very close to that intersection, I had another memory where an officer stopped me, and they said that I ran a red light. So the officer came up to me, and he's like, you ran that red light? I was like, oh, really? He's like, yeah. When you crossed, the light was black. I mean red. I was like, oh, the light was black, huh? Yeah.
Funny how that works, isn't it?
Yeah. So, two different Austin memories at a very similar like location. But that's like one of the first memories that I have, for sure.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that with us. And thank you for everything so far. Actually, it's we've gotten some interesting context and learning more about your work. So that's been great. And with all of that good stuff, all of the goodwill that's been established here, it's now time to get to some rapid fire questions.
Let's go.
So the way these are going to work, I'm going to start peppering you with questions, and you just want to answer these as quickly as possible. You don't want to overthink it, because people are like, I don't know if chocolate is my favorite flavor. Maybe it's this, maybe it's that. It's like,
yeah.
All right,
I got you. I'm here for it. Let's go.
Okay, with all of the hats that you're wearing, what other talent would you most like to have?
I want to swim. I want to like be able to swim long distance.
Okay. What's a word or phrase that you overuse day to day?
Facts.
Favorite book?
4 Agreements.
I looked that up when you mentioned it, by the way. This is a great one. Nickname you had when you were younger?
Meatball.
My brother had the same one. Historical figure you most identify with?
Ooh.
Yeah.
James Baldwin.
Good on you. What's a hashtag that best describes you?
Fresher together.
I like that. And lastly, what is something outside of what all of the things that you do? What is something that you've always dreamed of doing
that I'm not doing currently,
or that you have never done? Yeah,
mm.
That might be the stumper right there, because there's a lot of things like, man, what do I want to do again?
Yeah, no, it's like I just feel like I mean, the thing that came to my mind, but I mean, we've done this, but like just living outside the United States for, you know, longer than a month, you know, just like really like living in another country for maybe a year or more, just getting out of here. Shoot, I'm really interested in checking out Rwanda. We've been to Belize, really liked it in Belize. But like I think if I had to choose a place right now, I could just like live for a year and be outside of here, it would be Rwanda.
It's legit. So that's pretty much all of my questions. See, we got it. We made it happen. So I want to thank you for being on this podcast. And two, I want to also invite and encourage you to tell the fine folks where to check you out, your work, all of that stuff, social media, website, all of the things. So tell us, please.
Okay. Man, there's so many. But they can find me personally at Chaka, Chaka, Select, Seelect. That's my personal Instagram. You can find Dawa at Dawa Hills, DAWAHEALS on Instagram. You can find Riders Against the Storm at RAS Hip Hop, Ross Hip Hop. And you can find my clothing line, Nefer Fresher, at NEFR FRESHR. Or fresh2life.com, fresh2life.com.
So there you have it, folks. I want to again thank Chaka for coming on to this podcast. And I'm Rob Lee, saying there is art in and around your city, just like Austin. You just got to look for it. The Truth in This Art Beyond is produced with the generous support from Raisin in the Sun, Black Art Matters ATX, and Six Square. Raisin in the Sun is an Austin-based nonprofit organization whose work focuses on cultivating resilience through art and environmental initiatives. Find more out about their mission at raisininthesun.org. Black Art Matters ATX focuses on amplifying Black voices in Austin's cultural conversation by financially supporting new work from Black artists based in Austin. Learn more about their work at blackartmattersatx.org. And Six Square. Their work focuses on preserving and celebrating the historical legacy of the African American community that once thrived in Central East Austin. Learn more about their work at sixsquare.org. Thank you all for your generous support.